project was to improve the competitiveness of enterprises in Uganda by providing support to the implementation of business environment reforms, including land administration reforms and development of productive and service sectors. The project has so far had a disbursement of 96% of the total amount and has achieved the project development objectives, and specifically reducing the number of days to register land from 52 days to 20 days. Number two, reducing the number of days to register business from 33 days in 2010 to 1 day, 2019, and decreasing the cost to register business as a percentage of per capita income. Number C, increasing tourism arrivals from 945,000 to 1.5 million to date, increasing tourism sector employment. I guess, Chairperson, I will keep jumping the figures. Increasing exports of non-traditional crops supported by SMEs, benefiting 288,000 direct project beneficiaries under the matching grant, of which 51% are females. And the overall project has eased access to quality land and business registration services by making it easier, simpler, faster, and less costly for citizens. Whereas the parent project has achieved its project development objective indicators and now being ranked as one of the 3 top performing projects out of the 25 IDA portfolio in the country, there is still a need to scale up the successful activities, support deepening of both impact and sustainability of the current project. Now, the achievements of this parent project by project, and I don't know whether honorable members want me to go into detail, but I will try to move quickly. 1, construction of 10 new additional ministry zonal offices in Rwero, Mityana, Mukono, Mpiji, Wakiso, Moroto, Soroti, Tororo, Kabare, and Rukunjiri. Quite cross-country cutting, knowing the breadth of the country. Construction of a multi-purpose hall and girls' dormitory for the Institute of Surveyors and Land Management in Entebbe. Installation of an enhanced version of the land information system in 21 ministry zonal offices in Arua, Guru, Lira, Mbale, Jinja, Masindi, Chivale, Kabarore, Mbarara, Masaka, Kampala City Council Authority, and then in the new MZOs which have been mentioned above. The automation has significantly improved the quality of service delivery. For instance, it now takes a person 1 day to conduct a search for the title, compared to 20 to 50 days in 2010, and it takes 3 days to process a mortgage compared to 28 days in 2010. Systematic land adjudication and certification, or SLAC, has been undertaken, and a total of 606 community land associations have been formed across 13 districts. Community land associations are very important, given that in some of the areas within the country, communal land ownership becomes problematic if there is no basically legal authority to manage such lands. So in 13 districts of Kabong, Kotido, Moroto, Napak, Amdat, Kakumiro, Bulisa, Agago, Moya, Mubende, Kabale, Chibale, Kayunga, and Kayunga. Then several parcels have also been mapped with a total area of 16,000 hectares for 20,000 households. Development of the National Physical Development Plan, the first one of its kind in the country, which will guide all envisaged developments. The production of base maps for the entire country, last developed in 1966. These base maps will support timeliness and quality of land survey and valuation functions. Honorable members and honorable ministers, you know that at times we have had land titles which would appear on land, then when you want to map them, they are in the sea, and so on and so forth. So these developments are to correct such irregularities. Business registration and licensing. Construction of the Uganda Business Facilitation Center, a 16-level offices block on Plot 1, Baskerville, Roscoe in Kororo, which will house 3 government institutions, important institutions: Uganda Investment Authority, Uganda Registration Services Bureau, Capital Markets Authority, and with the floor which will serve as a one-stop center. Honorable ministers, chairperson, and members, I think recently you passed the Investment Code Act, provided for a one-stop center. We are looking towards a situation where you can go to one place physically, but also online, and access multiple services of government or public service. Streamlining systems, processes, and procedures for business registration and licensing reform. As a result, the time taken to register a business has been reduced. Business name search and reservation can now be conducted online and in an instance. The total number of registered businesses increased from 302,000 in 2010 to close to 600,000 in 2019. Tourism competitiveness development. Construction of a 3-star training hotel for the Uganda Hotel and Tourism Institute in Jinja. Support for tourism product development, packaging, marketing, and promotion. The project supported engagement of 3 destination market firms in UK, US, and Europe, and all supported the development of MICE policy and strategy. As a result, international tourism arrivals increased, and I say this with given the appreciation of what's happening, but basically from less than 1 million to about 1 million in 2019, and also increased tourist visits to the national parks, 120,000 to 330,000 in 2019. Matching grant facility. The matching grant facility benefited 312 SMEs in selected priority sectors of agribusiness, ICT, tourism, and fisheries with $2.8 million, which was 95% of total allocation. 2,640 new jobs were created by the benefiting SMEs, and 288,000 direct beneficiaries, out of which 51 are females. And sales for supported enterprises increased from 18% or US dollars 140 million to 165 million, and also exports increased from 132 million to 146 million. This is specifically for those beneficiaries, SMEs who got a matching grant. Page 6 of 17. There has been a significant increase in non-tax revenue collections as a direct result of design and installation of the land information system.
Procedure. Yes, procedure. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. contact the representative of the minister. Madam Chair, when I looked at the presidential clearance of this loan, it had a total of $140 million. But when you look at the proposal for borrowing, which is being presented by our brother, it has a total of $170 million. The clearance, which is on number 1, letter from the president, after it is a second letter, the request to the president from Madam Bahati, number 1. There is a letter which was written to the president by the minister asking him to clear the loan. When he was asking for 114, which was cleared in the presidential letter, which is on top. But the proposal being, when you add the figures for this loan, which is being presented by our brother, it has a total of $170 million. When you add 71,
I think, Honorable Damzungu, the request is for $99.8 million.
Special drawing rights.
The special drawing rights are $71.6 million, and the US dollars are $99.8 million. This, I think, is within.
Madam Chair, another one is...
Is it procedure?
Yes. The president talked about the construction of electric fencing.
No, Honorable Katoto. Let's discuss that within the details. Allow him to complete the presentation.
Madam Chair, we have a president we have a letter from the president. He's saying some things, this one is presenting different things.
Okay, let's allow him to complete, and then we shall make a fair judgment. Please proceed. Proceed, please.
Thank you, Honorable. So there has been significant increase in non-tax revenue collections as a direct result of the design and installation of the land information system. Annual non-tax revenue collections under the Ministry of Land increased from 10.2 million in 2012-13 to 37.4 million in 2018-19. Cumulatively, the Ministry of Lands has collected 192 million in NTR between 2012 and 13 and 2018-19. Similarly, URSB NTR collections increased from 7.6 million in 2012-13 to 15.2 million in 2018-19. Cumulatively, URSB collected 47 million between 2012-13 and 2018-19. Altogether, the two components have contributed a collection of 239 million, which is over and above the 100 million loan secured under the project. It's important to note that measures leading to this performance need to be consolidated, scaled up, and made sustainable. Justification for additional financing. So basically, those were the good things that have been achieved that need to be scaled up. Honorable members, additional financing will complete planned activities, scale up, deepen sustainability and the impact of the current project. Effective land administration reforms will improve the attractiveness of Uganda to investors while protecting land rights of local communities. Furthermore, this will improve access to finance and enhance sustainability as a result of security of property rights and ability to draw on local or national authorities to enforce these rights. enhance social stability will also attract private investment. I appreciate this point is appreciated and important in light of the diversity of land ownership in this country. Page 7 of 17. Enhanced land registration systems are key to mobilizing private capital for investment in Uganda, as land remains the primary form of collateral and an essential input in high-performing sectors like tourism. In the tourism sector, mapping of national parks boundaries and improved land management will provide greater clarity and transparency to attract potential investors. Building on the parent project experience, the land component support will support the increased capability of the land administration system by completing the infrastructure investments and filling gaps, that is, establishment of a multipurpose cadastre and building the capacities at local level. The policy and regulatory framework improvements that are needed in land administration, strengthening of the land dispute resolution mechanism, that gets into the space of judiciary and what have you, and scaling up the issuance of land titles. Honorable members, land administration reforms implemented under the project will ensure sustainable land market development and open up significant opportunities for investment and job creation. Project reforms in support of the land registration systems, land dispute resolution, and other national reforms will have impacts nationwide on improving transparency and security of land tenure. Tourism is among the fastest growing sectors in terms of foreign exchange earnings, job creation, as well as the potential to attract investments. The foreign exchange earnings in tourism have increased, and you can allow me to jump. Increased from
The correct word should be hard, not us.
Okay, from thank you. 800 million in 2011 to 1.6 billion in 2018, while the sector employed those numbers and generated so much as a contribution to GDP. So 13, whereas Uganda's tourism has grown over time, a lot of its potential remains unexploited as it is constrained by low capacity of tourism labor force, low levels of product development, and persistent gaps in policy and institutional framework, as well as minimal marketing and promotion. Maintaining a strong growth trajectory while delivering a memorable experience for visitors requires the industry to continue diversifying, expanding, and marketing its offerings to match changing visitor expectations, as well as those of those visitors from the new source markets. The tourism workforce of the future will also need to evolve in order to meet these expectations through embracing new technologies that fit productivity while facilitating and enhancing the visitor experience. Continued investment in infrastructure and attractions in environmentally responsible ways is critical in expanding accessibility, spreading the tourism earnings along the value chain, and improving visitor attractiveness and experiences. So SEDEP additional financing interventions are therefore critical and timely as well. They will address some of these bottlenecks. Under the parent project, basic investments for workforce development and destination marketing undertaken have so far resulted in increased international arrivals. The revenue collected from tourism boats so far is 5 billion and 20-60 million from the 5 buses as of March 2019. The Uganda Convention and Inventions Bureau has been established to champion the implementation of MICE and has so far generated a pipeline of prospective MICE business to be actualized between 2020 and 2022, equivalent to $6 million. Uganda is now registered member of the International MICE Association, International Congress and Convention Association. Honorable members, to advance tourism development in Uganda, the additional financing will catalyze private investments in selected areas through the establishment of improved tourism information management system teams that will inform planning and investment decisions. The intervention will further advance tourism development in Uganda by catalyzing private investment in selected areas. CDEP-AF will enhance coordination and focus public sector on destination planning, investments, and management in the main hubs of Kampala, Jinja, and Entebbe. The development objective of this additional financing project is to support measures that facilitate increased private sector investment in the tourism sector and strengthening effectiveness of the land administration system. And the strategic fit of this is that CDEP additional financing is in line with 1, the 3rd National Development Plan, which prioritizes the private sector development program, which seeks to increase competitiveness of the private sector so as to drive inclusive growth. And with our need to increase local content and what have you, this makes it timely. The National Strategy for Private Sector Development that envisions strengthening Uganda's competitiveness for sustainable wealth creation, employment, inclusive growth through improved business environment. 3, the economic management objective of increasing private investment in the accountability sector investment plan. 4, the Ministry's strategic plan vision of having a competitive economy for national development. And 5, the National Resistance Movement's Manifesto, Steady Progress 2016-21, where government commits to social transformation through access to land as a factor of production and as a crucial resource for transformation by supporting initiatives required to A, create an efficient and effective land administration, implementation of land policy and reform of relevant laws to be in consonance with it. C, undertake systematic registration of individual registration of individual and communally owned land. D, implementation of a program of actions for strengthening institutions and mechanisms for land dispute resolution. And E, to foster mediation at the local government level and continue to enforce laws to protect the rights of lawful and bona fide tenants. The components. Honorable members, these are the 2 components of this project. Land administration.
You don't have to go through the details of all that.
Okay. So there are 2 components, basically land administration, 53 million. Then number 2 on page 12, the tourism component. And then, of course, the component for the implementation of the project, which is why Private Sector Foundation Uganda is here, to which the minister will sign a subsidiary agreement. I think I mentioned 20. In addition to the above mentioned components, it's worth to note that climate change and gender are cross-cutting priorities for the project, and almost all registered land in Uganda is the names of male-head households, and additional financing will subsidize the registration cost of couples willing to proceed with joint titling. And climate adaptation and mitigation measures will be prioritized for all envisaged investments. Project financing, there I mentioned that government will contribute $2 million. The table on page 14 provides the breakdown of resources, and we have carefully provided the original project SEDEP, the 100 million that is ending, then the additional, the 99.8. As you see, mainly it is land administration, 53.7, tourism, 43.1, then project implementation, giving that total, and you can appreciate that. Terms of IDA, I think we are all familiar to those, and
The loan situation,
we are also familiar with the loan situation. You are familiar with the implementation arrangement, whereby PSFU, the Private Sector Foundation, basically helps in the implementation. And it's good to appreciate this, to appreciate that because we want private sector to grow as the key driver or engine of growth for the economy, then the engagement of this umbrella association is important. The debt situation, I believe, Honorable Minister, you are also familiar with that, and the Public Finance Act. So in conclusion, basically, this additional financing is strategically aligned to the national development priorities, the private sector development program, the NRM manifesto, and all these programs for accountability and even the ministry strategy. So in light of the foregoing, the Honorable Minister would have wished that you note the need to acquire additional financing from IDA to finance the competitiveness and enterprise development project, endorse the request for borrowing of 71 SDR.6, which is equivalent to 99.8 million from IDA, and to authorize the government by passing a resolution in line with the requirements of Article 159 of the Constitution to borrow up to 71.6 million equivalent to this to finance this project. Chairperson, my ministers and members, I leave it at that. And I think just to mention that this financing, I think, is coming from what they call IDA 18 and needs to be really finished. Otherwise, there is a shift to IDA 19. So it's very important it is really dealt with as soon as possible. I thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. Before I open up the floor for colleagues to contribute, I want to make a few remarks. This paper, it appears, was drafted before the advent of COVID-19. I don't know whether really what you have presented is the reality today, because we are talking of, for instance, in tourism, numbers increasing, whereas we are at zero now. So for planning purposes, I think we need to readjust this presentation to the current situation or the post-COVID situation. And we also have to look at the new normal. Is it going to continue business as usual? People coming in the way they have been coming in? The conferences, are they going to be conducted the way we've been conducting them, or they are going to be on Zoom? So really we need to make adjustments to fit in the new normal. My other concern is on the construction of zone offices. I don't know, since 1927, government has been borrowing money for improving land management. But so far, there is very little on the ground. I'll talk about one office I'm familiar with. This is the Luero office. Apart from changing structures, the problems are still the same. They are still issuing titles on top of titles. You get one piece of land with more than 2-3 titles. They call it sitting. You take a title where it is purported to be, and it cannot sit there. There already other titles fitted there. Having been at this exercise for the last 15 years, and there is very minimal improvement. What gives us confidence that when we borrow this money, there will really be improvement? And yet Uganda being 68% agriculture, land is the biggest capital, part of our capital. And as long as the question of land is not settled, our people in the rural area where the majority stays are going to be to continue being unproductive because there are land wrangles all over the place. I would have expected that with these reforms which have been going on for the last 15 years, the number of land wrangles would have been reduced, but they are just increasing. You know it. You know that very well, colleagues. That for us politicians, that is also a yardstick on our performance. How many land wrangles have you resolved? But quite often we get stuck. We start taking sides, and we end up messing up ourselves because we see our people in dire need to sort out these land wrangles. So I really need to be convinced on that. The construction of zone offices, Wachiso, I think is still a big problem in as far as managing titles is concerned. I'm speaking from personal experience. Wachiso is still a big problem. Ruwero, there is an office behind there, they told me it's called the cadastral office. That's where titles are manufactured. You have a title, there is another one manufactured in the cadastral office. I'm a victim of this, so I'm really speaking from experience. And now that we have many districts, you are concentrating on the zone offices without addressing the feed-in offices. Do you think you will solve the problem at a higher level without resolving it at the primary level? The other problems are the surveyors. I think we have very few competent surveyors, and they are partly the cause of these land conflicts. Is there a regulatory body in the regulatory body for regulating or for disciplining these surveyors who are causing us so many problems? And on the tourism training school, that one has also become an endless story. It's been on, and we are losing competitiveness. We are losing employment. Before the advent of COVID-19, every hotel you went to in the Middle East, you find Kenyans serving. And when you say black person they are serving, you don't even bother to ask where they're from. You just say Bari. Yes, that's what I normally do when I see them. I say Bari, and they respond, and I right away know that they are either from Tanzania or from Kenya. If you saw Riotia, you will hardly get anybody to respond. Or Kopango, it will be very difficult to get anybody responding to you. But even here, the hotels here, if you want a competent staff, you go to what is this college in Utali College. But when are we going to get our own Utali in Uganda? And it's not only for catering in hotels, but there are some small services like laundry, an area which I'm familiar with. We don't have anywhere where these people are trained. You put them in your business and they burn customers' clothes left and right, and you are all the time compensating. Yes, Apex. Yes. So,
Madam Chair, procedure. Is it procedure right? Because when I read the letter from the President on paragraph 3, he said, I cannot understand number 3 unless it focuses on building an electric fence on the boundaries of the national parks. I will not approve it unless it concentrates on that. When we see what he has presented, nothing is there like that. So are we procedurally on the right track? Information.
Yes, Honorable Mzungu.
I think my colleague is just want to give some information. I think we are not on number 3. The number 3 was rejected. The number 3 was rejected. So it is not on. No, he says
if I cannot understand number 3.
Have you read the letter of the 4th April?
No, it is the letter we have. We don't have another letter.
4th or 20th? You have the January one or the April one?
It has 2, 4, and 5. 3 is not there.
Please,
Order.
we have only one letter.
Order, Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
Yes.
No, I wonder whether it's in order. Right now we are looking at this proposal as presented, and I think what you're inviting is a reaction.
Yes.
But now can you react to something which is rejected?
Order, I'm on the floor. Now, the next step after this, I am assuming, is looking at what the members are raising.
Yes.
So is it in order that we are combining the two together? In my view, we should look at the proposal. After the proposal, then we will look at whether it has the approval. I think if there are issues around approval, that should have come probably before we started on this. But I think we are mixing up the two. So are we in order?
I think, colleagues, we are discussing the proposal submitted. When we get to the end, we shall subject this to our checklist. We've got a long checklist. And if it doesn't fit in the checklist,
This letter is relevant.
Madam Chair.
this is part of the accompaniments, part of our
Madam Chair, you
checklist,
say-
which we review at the end. We've got a long checklist.
Madam Chair, you
of
say
our requirements
we should not
here.
waste time for the ministers. We give them an opportunity to present. It's not also wise to waste time to discuss something that's not approved. So if it is not approved and there is an issue of that, let's look at it and we discuss something that is right, so that we also don't waste our time.
Madam Chair, I'm interested in reading this letter from the President.
Madam Chairperson,
Yes.
there is what the honourable member is raising is completely different from today's sitting here. Completely different. And therefore,
Forest and resilient landscape project.
what Honorable Katoto is talking about is not the matter for today.
But now when you read here, you see here.
No, number 3, Honorable Katoto. Number 3 refers to forest and resilience landscape
That
project.
is another project.
This is a totally different project.
Yes, that's a different project, not this one.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Honorable Taiba.
thank you. I think, Honourable Minister, I request that when you people go to the President, also make our work as Parliament easy. And Madam Chair, and we've raised it on several occasions here in this committee. Now, when a President writes, members, Honourable Katoto, and Gamuzu-
Honorable Katoto, can you listen, please?
members, Honourable Minister, I was requesting, when you go to the President, make our work easy as members of Parliament. Because our signature will go unanswered, will go in the records of history, and will be judged according to that signature. When a president writes, and he says, although vague,
So they should tell us.
he says it's a vague loan. And ministers, you carry this letter, you bring it to Parliament. Knowing that the president has said it is vague, but he approved though it's vague. And now we carry a burden of clearing something which the president has made clear that it's vague. So it is making our work difficult. So I request Madam Chair, members, as we have been told that the other issues it was addressing another one, I would request the minister to address us on issues which the president had identified as vague and how you have tried to fix them so that they become clear and we sort you out.
But the President.
Okay, he'll do that when he's responding.
Madam Chair.
But the president, in principle, he approved.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But he has told you the vague parts
Let's proceed. You will clarify
on the vague parts. And personally, I don't have a problem with this one. It addresses a critical
We
issue.
must isolate issues.
Yeah.
What brings us hither today is are two.
three components, if you like. The consolidation of non-nutrition system, tourism product and competitiveness development, and project implementation policy. That's why we're here. And that's what I would.
Madam Chair, we should not be disturbed. Where is the president saying that I've approved in this letter we have?
The letter.
Maybe I am blind. I'm blind. I can't read.
Madam
We
Chair.
can get a clear letter from the president where we don't have so many vague, so many what, where he says he has approved.
Madam
Where is
Chair.
his approval here?
Madam Chair, I think you have to
In the date
determine.
of the 4th of April.
The fourth,
4th of April.
which is number
Do you have the letter of
Which
photos?
is number D1.
one.
Which says, although vague, in some aspects, it will at least complete the tourism training school. So I think let's go by that. Let's go by that. Honorable Peter.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, I have the floor. Protect me, please. Honorable Vice. Madam Chair, this is what I'd like to suggest. We have the minister in front of us, the ministers in front of us. We agreed at the beginning of this meeting that we let them present what they need to present. We're not making any decisions today. So why don't we let them present, take note of what we need to take note of, and in a meeting by ourselves, we'll determine the way forward as we wait for the Minister of Finance to come. I think to debate it as though we're making decisions today is really a waste of everyone's time.
What we are presenting, colleagues, are additions to what these people, we want them to clarify. So really, if we preempt them now, and we say don't proceed, let's save time, please. Honorable Wadri, let's save time. Let's save time.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, if asked simply as an individual, I will be very, very reluctant to vote my signature on the approval of the component for land administration. I say this with a lot of pain in my heart.
No, I was still making my submission.
Oh,
If you could allow me completely.
I thought you had
No,
finished.
I had not. I had
Oh.
not.
But
I
the
was
minister has to
on
present.
the product development for tourism. Again, this is an area where you need to work very hard. The products which you had before COVID-19 advent can no longer work today. So really we need something updated in view of the current situation. URSB is one of the very few government agencies which are doing a commendable job. They are really trying. But what I see, I think the problem they have, I think is the communication. Their system is not up to date, because we tried during these COVID days to do things online, and they are not. Yeah, the Uganda Registration Services Bureau. But otherwise, you're offline, they are doing a wonderful job, and this department must be credited. You can even see the amount of money which they have generated. But I think what they need to do more, since we are trying to formalize the business sector, is to go out to the people. Go to Chikubo, set up a main office in Chikubo. Go to these small places where we have many informal players. Because our economy, the biggest problem we have is informal. And we want to come up with as many incentives as possible to formalize for several benefits. First of all, for tax collection. And secondly, for incubating them to go to the next level, and also for accessing finance. So whoever is responsible for Uganda Registration Services Bureau, if you can facilitate them to go out. I don't know why this service is available in the upcountry districts, or whoever wants to register business has to come to Kampala. But let's get as close as the people who want to serve. I don't see why you don't have an office in Katwe. Yes, in Katwe, Chikubo, Bwaise, wherever. That's where they are. They are not on, what road is that? Simbamanyo. They are not here in Kampala. They are out there. So if we could find a way to capture those people, I think that will help us. And I think private sector foundation is it is for you to carry the weight to ensure that these services get close to the users. Otherwise, tourism, we are going back to the drawing board. It's no longer business as usual. It's new normal. And new normal requires that we go back to the drawing board and recast it all together. Lands, the challenge is big. It's you people who have frustrated production in this country. People cannot work on disputed land. Investors cannot come and invest in an area where it's going to get a title to a piece of land which has already got so many other disputing titles. With that, I raise my case. Honorable Kasiano Wadri.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, as I stated earlier on, as an individual, I will be very, very hesitant to watch my signature to support this loan request in totality, especially the component of land administration and management reforms. The background information which has been given to us here is very, very rosy. Very rosy. To the extent that it says they have reduced the days from 52 to 20 days in order to get land titles in this country. The general rationale at the time when they decentralized land registration to regional areas was to ease the process. But Madam Chair, I regret to say that it was much easier getting a land title from Entebbe, which was a centralized system, than at a regional level. I come from Arua. There is a regional land registration office in Arua. But believe you me, if you went to Westline right now, people are actually asking themselves whether that regional office has any value at all. Even people have gone for as long as 2 years. And by the way, I'm one of the victims. Surveyors have done their work, but 2-3 years down the road, there is nothing. People have sold their golds, people have sold their properties in order to get land title. Especially now in the wake of Arua becoming a city. Everybody is fearful of land tenure system. People will want to own their land through registration. But it is impossible. It's completely impossible. That office is mad with a lot of corruption. You can never place any document on a table A and it goes to my OB, Honorable Kefa's table without money accompanying it. Sure. And I'm telling you this.
Holding it on the table.
Yeah. So from one table to another, you must part with surmountable amounts of money. And at the end of the day, you still don't get the title. So there is a problem. There is a problem. Even the staff is inadequate. Arua Regional Land Registration Office depends on surveyors, staff surveyors from other districts who come once in 2 weeks or once in a month, if you are lucky. So where do they get these rosy figures they are talking about? So for me, it is of no use for us to borrow money to expand other regional offices when the ones that you have in place are not of any benefit. Actually, for us in West Nile, we even say it is better for us to go back to the center. People would rather travel to Entebbe and struggle from there rather than talking of taking services nearer to the people, which actually is not the case. So, with land wrangles now coming up every other day, I think it is only fair, my sister, Honorable Namugaza, that you put your house in order. There is a big, big problem. I remember even we demanded for a meeting with some of your officers from the headquarters. They came on the ground and they appreciated the problems that the regional office is going through. Because leader after leader was talking the same thing. And unless something is done,
For me, I will really not be at peace to vote my signature for this 53 point something amount of money, which I know at the end of the day will still not be able to improve our situation, unless a miracle happens in that ministry of yours, and that you are really able to crack the whip on the people who are frustrating efforts of government. Otherwise, this money may be borrowed, and at the end of the day, nothing useful will happen. I commend Uganda Registration Bureau, Registration Services Bureau. At least they're doing a commendable job up country. At least you can go there, you can apply. After search, you can apply, you can put your documents, and within a short time, you are able to get your registration certificate of a business title. But for lands, my sister, it's a big, big problem. And the land is the heart and soul of any person who wants to go into any business venture. And without having ownership of land, especially now with the city status getting to Arua, I'm afraid many of our people are going to lose their land to the most affluent, those who can maneuver, those who have the money to dish around to the land registration officials in order to acquire titles. But to the ordinary person, it is a nightmare. Help us in that regard. I thank you.
Honorable Dr. Dr.
Kefa Shembani?
one time
Yeah, we had him as a minister.
Madam Chair, the grateful are advancing on the premises that actually this proposal does not meet the minimum requirements for us to consider it. And I find it a shame on the doctor that is the one who has presented this. I think doctor will agree with me that the robustness of the proposal very much depends on a good analysis. And it's with the analysis that then you develop you do the evaluation and then develop options that you have, and then the strategic responses where you have the objectives and activities of what you are going to do. But this proposal does not actually show an understanding of the problem that is being addressed. You can disagree with me, Doctor, but I'm sure it's also at the bottom of your heart that actually you've missed out a very fundamental issue here that you need to address. My thinking is that this proposal, I think, was prepared sometime way back, actually, even before December, as it keeps mentioning here. And if that's when it was prepared, do you think we're just fools here that you can pick up anything and then you bring it here and just present to members and they will just accept it as it is? And Madam Chair, it would be very unfortunate if the executive can just bring anything, present, and then we pass it. That would be very, very unfortunate. It's okay, apart from Honorable Wadri, my ancestor, has talked a lot about the land reforms here. But I think we know the problems under land reform. And probably we don't need a good argument. We don't need probably going back to understand what they are. They are with us on a day-to-day basis. But the issues with the private sector investment, which you are talking about, the issues around boosting the numbers of tourism from 1.5, which you are assuming it is now, that's completely out of touch with reality. It's not. But I hope that's what the doctor is also saying. I would think that he fully understands what. Secondly, when you have the analysis wrong, like you have it here, then you have wrong objectives. It is possible that the responses you require now are different from what you had then before the advent of COVID. And of course, when you have wrong objectives, then you have wrong activities and therefore wrong outcomes. So I think the whole thing needs to go back to the drawing board, and you come back to us with something in touch with the circumstances of our time. Otherwise, we are dealing with something completely out of touch with reality.
Okay. Yes, Honorable Makuyu.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I want to be educated. Background information. 66.1 million special drawing rights, equal to 100. In 71, it has gone down. You get the point, what I'm saying?
The rate fluctuates.
I want him to, because it doesn't go, really, I don't understand that. Number two is talking about that the project has so far disbursed 96%. That means they have done the work. But Madam Chair, this morning I was reading in the newspaper of government where one person called Mustafa took over Bugoma Forest land. Bugoma and Masindi, and is in court. And when I'm a member of Natural Resources Committee with Dr. Kefa, my boss, we went there, they said, no, these surveys are done in Kampala, they sit in the office, in the land's office, then they generate just from the desk. It's today's paper, today they are taking Bugoma Forest. So for me, I want to support him. Let us deal with the other component, but this one of land reform, we exclude. Because we have regional zone office in Mbale, but it works for 2 days. Tuesday at noon and Wednesday, 2.
At noon for 1 hour.
On Tuesday, you go there at noon, then Wednesday you are there, Thursday, don't waste your time. Monday, please don't. No.
Prime Minister, can you
You respond. These zone offices, they are under the ministry.
They are directly under the center.
They are under the center.
They are not under the
But how do we put money for someone to work for 1.5 days? Really, senior honorable Butime. I think for your case we can agree, but for lands,
and is injury chances?
we should first of all pen for further. Now, number two, on the issue of park boundaries, mapping of park boundaries, I want the Minister of Tourism. We have been having an issue with the park boundary. I'm from Mount Elgon, with the community. So I want to see if Mount Elgon is also captured to be part of the issues. You have to tell me now before we proceed. Otherwise, you as also, we can remove it like we are going to do it right. So, lastly, Madam Chair, normally projects, it is something which is unique. When you look at the project financing, costing and financing, original cost was 100, then additional 99.8, almost
The same.
it was the same, but they just removed something just to convince us.
Justify.
For me, at times,
No, that is exchange fluctuation.
well, Madam Chair, let them explain for themselves. But even if it is exchange fluctuation, it can't be 99.8. Why can't you add the 0.2 then to have it 200? Other than that, it's not convincing like what members have seen. They need to go back and repackage this information, taking into account COVID-19 impact.
Yes, Honorable Matimba.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to echo your observations. One of the reasons that I came into public service for our country, on top of what I do in the private sector, is because I recognize that in Uganda and most third world countries, most of the resources of a nation are governed by those that are in government. Therefore, being leaders at the government level is a very, very serious responsibility. I am very concerned by the confidence with which, and the audacity with which our esteemed and honorable members of the executive or representatives thereof would come here and present something that is totally irrelevant to the times that we live in, to the tune of $100 million. If I was to try and do that in the private sector, for example, I own the super group of companies, and if my accountant or my tax auditors or my experts came and gave me advice on how to move forward with a plan that was done before the COVID times, I would fire them, because they'd be putting my business into real jeopardy and killing it. I'm just wondering, why can't we, when we come to playing on a national level, why can't we take into consideration that all decisions which affect people's lives in a very real way be made in a manner that is relevant to the times that we live in? How can we deal and look for money based on things that happened before COVID, when COVID has changed the whole world and the way we do business? The meeting should have been postponed by you, even the loan, until it's been adjusted to be relevant. Tetwagala kutuusa mukolo. That's real English, parliamentary English for today. We can't do things okutuusa omukolo. We are killing the country. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Being ceremonial. Yes, Honorable Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To begin with, I don't know whether the way you responded to Honorable Mutini addresses my concern of they wrote to the President, they wanted 114.7 million. Now I can see in the RON we are having 99 million. So where are the 14 million gone? Because the letter to the President for clearance is for 114. I need a clarification on that. Madam Chair, number 2 on lands. You see, Honourable Minister, every member is raising an issue on land. And what is surprising is that we are concluding by saying we don't approve because of land. But again, we are saying land has issues. So I think this would be a matter of how you've packaged your information for members to appreciate that indeed the issues in land need this money to be addressed. So I would propose, Madam Chair, land goes back and gives us more details on this money, how it's going to indeed help solve the problems. Because if we understand, if we are suffering with the problems of lands, it's the lands we should be giving priority, to me, to help finance so that we address all these issues. Yes, Honorable Veronica.
While on land, I see the...
Social distance, please.
It's okay, we have a chick. While on land, thank you, Madam Chair. While on land, I can see the request is for land administration. But I know there is a serious problem on land acquisition. And there is a law, or the Ministry of Lands is coming up with legislation. Maybe as the minister comes back, we also need to be updated on where that law or the impending law, where the bill is. Because maybe it would help strengthen your case. I totally agree with my friend here that much as we are saying there is a problem, but there is a much bigger problem on land which we need to sort out if we have to develop this country. That's the information I thought I would give. Thank you.
Thank you. Still on land, Madam Chair, on page 14, point number 22, where they are saying that almost all registered land in Uganda is in the names of the male heads of household, and they would want to encourage couples. They want finance to encourage couples to own land jointly. Madam Chair, you don't need to borrow for this. You only need to amend the law. Because one of the reasons as to why it is difficult for us to keep transferring land is at every stage you transfer, you incur stamp duty. Now, the biggest cost on transferring land is stamp duty. So, if the land is going to the same couple, this was land in my own names, I want to add on my wife, why should I pay tax as if land is going to another entity? It's still our land. So I would propose, Honourable Minister, on this one, you amend the Stamp Duty Act so that if the land is being transferred from me to be jointly owned by me and my wife, I don't pay stamp duty again. And you would save a lot, because even this money will not be enough. Maybe if you say it will help in running the campaign, to encourage couples to jointly own land.
Maybe information on that.
Yes, Madam.
With the ancestral land, there is a problem. Because as you know, in our ancestry, the system is followed through the sons or the male members of the family. And when land is registered under the heir, who is always a male, to transfer this land to the sisters becomes costly in regard with the stamp duty. I think when you are coming up with an incentive, that needs to be taken into consideration. In ancestral land registered in the heir being passed over to the sisters and brothers.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. And they didn't address that. The one they are addressing here, they are saying the additional financing will subsidize the registration costs for couples willing to proceed with joint titling. So that's why I said you need to address issues of stamp duty costs. Madam Chair, on tourism, I really understand tourism is a very important sector, but some of us who neighbor parks are concerned. You will not have these tourists if you don't have animals. You will not have animals if you allow them to continue coming, destroying our gardens, destroying people's homes, destroying people's crops. People are going to attack these animals. We have begged, Madam Chair. All the time elephants are destroying crops in my area, in my constituency. Now, when I see that you're going to get $43 million and you don't want to address, among these 43, you're not even going to address issues of people living, in proximity with animals, then you make our life difficult here. Honorable Katoto faces the same problem.
Can I do on that? Because now, Madam Chair, 43 million is not even explained to us. So can we get explanation and see whether we can fix it? What is the problem?
So Madam Chair, however much I've seen... Madam Chair, in the letter given to us, the project where maybe that would fall, 3, I saw it's cancelled, since the President rejected it. But, Honourable Minister, can you try to see out of this money, if it is possible, to help communities like mine, even if you don't give me an electric fence? I've requested for a trench. You dig a trench. Who has equipment? Government has equipment. You can borrow equipment from government. You dig a trench so that elephants don't cross into people's, because electricity might be expensive. But at least give us trenches and hippos so that we can survive. And Honourable Minister, I would support this loan, but I request you address that issue. Finally, Madam Chair, I would propose, since this is a continuation of another project, Dr. Peter and your team, if you can give us those reports, of the performance of the other one. Don't mind the sizes. We have technical staff here. We have members who will read. We know what we are looking for, so that we can see what you managed to achieve. Because, Madam Chair, this is the most difficult loan for me to understand, I can assure you, because it's scattered all over. It's touching here, it's touching here, it's touching everywhere. So you don't even know where the center is. The center cannot hold. Yeah? You try to know, where do I hold from? So we come to Dr. Peter in finance. I'm seeing he's only getting around $3 million, the one remaining in finance. All money is going somewhere else. So if we can get those reports, and then you give us work plans for the rest of the money you're asking for. I'm sure because it was a continuing project, you have the work plans. You share with us, we work with you. However difficult it is to understand this project, we see a way of coming to a solution, Madam Chair. I thank you.
Okay, Tororo.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The presenter was elaborating on achievement that the real achievement, especially mine, is on land administration and management reforms. I don't know what they have really achieved, because if you go to, I represent Toro municipality, you find that they are locating plots on the roads. The gazetted roads, that's where the plots are located. Now, really, if there was a reform, could they identify that this is a road, a gazetted road? So I don't know what reforms. You are proud of your achievement. Actually, the land dispute has increased. I don't know whether you have which data you are getting. It has increased more. There has been an increase of land dispute. Then time is, you say it has decreased. I think it has increased. Maybe we who are in his own office like Toro, maybe just transport to come to Entebbe or to Kampala. But you could do, if you travel to Entebbe to Kampala, it is easier to get the title other than. So really, we need to discuss this. In Kampala here, you find they've already opened up the offices already. But COVID is on, but they've already opened the office. But up countries, Tororo, never. The office is not yet open. So what is happening? Is Kampala different from the up country? Then why don't you try to assist? This reform should come with some assisting government land. Schools, health centers, government schools, they have been encroached and so on. What are you doing? You do have come out with some reform so that we find hospitals, health centers, the sub-counties, headquarters, maybe it could be absorbed so that they have titles, but there's nothing. I don't really see. Lastly, I don't know how they were choosing the project on tourism. There are so many projects which are hanging, which could even increase our tourism. For example, that or one of them, like the rock. If you can really install there a cable car, it would have increased. So you try to find out from other areas so that the project you are choosing is a real project which can boost our tourism. That's my conclusion.
Okay. Sergeant. Corporal.
Thank you for promoting me.
This is a private.
I will stand and speak from here.
Corporal, come here.
It is here.
Madam Chairperson, although I came late, but I've quickly grasped the fundamentals, and I want to place my views on record. Because I have some practical knowledge on some of these issues being discussed. I'm called Major Guma. I come from Uganda North constituency. MPs have decided to demote me to call me a corporal, and yeah, a corporal is a section commander in an infantry formation. He commands 12 people, and that's a very serious matter. Madam Chairperson.
That's too big for you.
I happen to have been a member of the board of directors in URSB for the time I was briefly out of here. So I have a member of the board of URSB. I do not
No
see.
one is performing well.
I do not see anybody here from URSB. Maybe there are new staff whom I don't know. And I have inside information how that department was overhauled, a department of government, and delivered it to a certain extent. Dr. Ngatijize, I can see he's here quoting the registration of business moving from so many days, 33 days to 1 day. I know why. It's not because of SEDEP. The reason is not because of the money for SEDEP. Actually, when I was a member of the board with Honorable General Tafile, because land registration services falls under Minister of Justice, he was a justice there. We raised a number of issues to shift that money practically to refinance so that it is housed where it is supposed to impact in terms of performance. These guys in finance refuse. They want to cling on the money. So the efficiency areas that have been improved in Uganda Registration Services Bureau is not because of this World Bank loan of 66 special drawing rights. It's not because of that. It's a different, the reasons are different. One of the factors is serious management capacity. Under Bemanya, under 12 as a Bemanya.
And the lady there.
And the serious board. We had a serious board under Isaac Amsumba, the Minister of State for Urban, who were a serious group. And actually finance would frustrate. So, Madam Chairperson, incidentally, the 4 years we have been here, there are some MPs whom I hold in extremely high regard and esteem. One of them is Honorable Dr. Kefa Chiwanuka from Chiboga. So once you see him rejecting a proposal, then you know that proposal is terribly defective. Although I have not internalized this document, seriously speaking. But when I heard Dr. Kefa Chiwanuka dismissing this document, then I knew there must be someone, and he's someone who has the academic potential to internalize documents very quickly. So SEDEP actually was a disaster, although they are listing areas of achievement. SEDEP, competitive enterprise, something, that's how they feel it. But it was a disaster. However, Madam Chairperson, I would wish to request the Minister of Finance planners to make us maybe have a sample of these projects, and we go there because they are in Kampala. We don't even need their fuel. We go there and see them, and see these achievements which they are talking about. Small and medium enterprise is 11% in 2014, something like how they have grown. We should go there and see, so that we can, because $100 million, 66 drawing rights, is a lot of money, Madam Chairperson. If I may go to the lands department, where Kasiano are doing, and I want you honorary members, Madam Chairperson and honorary minister, to appreciate the outburst of my friend Wadri, not to
don't listen to his views with a political biased mind because he's an opposition or what. There is a disaster in the Ministry of Lands. That's the bare truth. That is the bare truth. In 7th Parliament, Madam Chairperson, Honorable Kano Tom Butimi is here as a minister. I think he was in 7th Parliament as well. We passed a loan of $17 million to modernize the land registration in this country. 17. I remember. 17, honorable members, $1 million to efficiently modernize so that someone from Arua, someone from Kisoro, someone does not need to come to Kampala to line up. I have failed even myself to have land titles for my pieces of land in Iban. I can't. It's extremely bureaucratic. I don't know this, I don't know that, I don't know. I said, but I have the command, let me pay and get. It's a nightmare. It's horrendous. It's horrible. So managers in charge of the Ministry of Lands at both senior and junior level must pull up their socks. There is definitely a problem. And if members of parliament at our level can really talk with frustration, what about our peasants? What about our peasants? So, Mr. Chairman of Private Sector, you and my old friend, Honorable Sendout, we want to see where the money of SEDEP has gone. For me, have an open heart. We want to pass a government loan. Yes, we want to pass it. You talk a lot of economics whenever you talk in conferences, but we want to see the practical aspects where the government money. We should not simply sit here, approve, money goes, approve, money goes. We are willing, want to approve, but we want to go there and see. There is a statement, Madam Chairperson, as I finish, on page 3 of page 19, whereas the parent project has achieved its PDO indicators and now being ranked as one of the top 3 performing projects out of the 25 ADA portfolio. Projects of the country, projects by the country project portfolio review undertaken by the World Bank in 2019. There is meaning that it has performed wonders. Let's be part of those wonders by way of seeing them. And then you come here and we approve.
Okay. Yes, Honorable.
What is the serious fight?
Go ahead, please. Yeah. Okay.
Honorable, can I stop you again? Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Judy Saliek. I'm a member of Parliament for Kole District. Thank you for giving me this opportunity for adding my voice on the loans that we are borrowing for our country. Madam Chair, I have 2 things to comment on. First of all, I would like to add something on tourism, product and competitiveness development, which we are borrowing up to about 43.1 million US dollars. Madam Chair, what I'm adding is that I come from Kole District, but I also have a garden in Oyam. Madam Chair, we have Massishon Falls Park, which every day the stray animals usually invade the gardens of the community. I'm talking from an informed point of view because yesterday more than 30 elephants crossed over and destroyed so many gardens, including my own garden, of course. I had a 30-acre cassava garden that had been completely destroyed by the elephants, and other people's gardens that have been located near the park. Madam Chair, I would like to ask the Minister, because as I interacted with officials from Ministry of Tourism, last time when I think some people came here and had this similar meeting with us, Madam Chair, as I interacted with them, they told me even the regulations about how to go about compensation and other things for the community are not yet in place. And I was ably informed that the cabinet has not yet even sat, even the regulations have not yet been presented to them. So there is no way even our people can be compensated for their lost crops, the crops that have highly been damaged by the stray animals. Madam Chair, I have the pictures that I can, at an appropriate time, lay even on table about the extent of the destruction that these animals have done to our people. But what I'm requesting the minister to do is that, please, as I support my colleagues, let us consider compensating our people. It's not only this year that these animals have come. These animals have been coming for more than 20 years in Uganda, 20 years ago. Yeah, and nothing has been done. People have now resorted to poaching. Poaching because they are annoyed. Their crops have already been destroyed. They don't have alternative food to eat. I'm telling you the truth, I was there yesterday. They are saying they will continue poaching, but the unfortunate thing is that when they poach, they are killed, they are shot. Yes, they follow them and shoot them, yet they don't have an alternative source of income. They don't have an alternative source of food to eat because the animals have destroyed everything. Minister, Honorable Minister, before you leave this place, I want to give you the pictures of the level of the destruction these animals have done. So if we are borrowing this money, Madam Chair, let us consider the element of the people, even if we are promoting tourism. You can't promote tourism when the animals are escaping every day, and now they have dug the trench. The trenches have been dug. The elephants are very wise animals. They decided to cover parts of the trenches, and they were crossing peacefully. Then there is this electric fence that is going to be constructed again. And, okay, the work has started, but it has stalled. We are not seeing any progress. So where are we going? So instead of using this money to support, promote, market growth, where is the market? We support market growth of tourism sector if we control the animals. And the animals are in the park and not disturbing people. That is one, Madam Chair. Another thing is about land administration reform, Madam Chair. The objectives are very good for this land administration. I think we need to support this law because we have had a lot about land management and administration. I think, for me, I support this law for the land administration reform. I think, Madam Chair, that is what I had to say, but I'm still emphasizing on tourism sector. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Zamuzuni.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We have 3 issues. The first one is to request you to make a ruling on when we are having all these documents, especially what my colleagues talked about as far as the performance of the old loan and the groups, private sector and the team, so that in the next meeting as we are looking at this loan, whether agree or disagree, we have facts as far as this is concerned. Secondly, I would propose, Madam Chair, on the land administration reform. I think as we started last time, we should stop passing a loan just as a blanket. 43, 53. So I would propose that the Honourable Minister for Lands and our team, in addition to the performance of the other loan, these items from 1 to 6, I think figures are allocated. If you say improving, consolidating, so that we know the breakdown of the 53, so that we don't take it as we don't agree with. There might be other components that we agree with and some that we don't agree with. So I would propose that that is done so that we support a loan when we know the details, even for better supervision and oversight in the future. On tourism, I happen to sit on one other committee that also handles this. I think before we even pass this loan for both items, we just take key note on the money that we budget for, especially for the next financial year, so that we don't borrow for something that we have already budgeted for in the next financial year. We are about to reach the ceiling, Madam Chair. So if we happen to just pass every loan, we may end up having very serious issues, and we are above the ceiling. So I would also propose that under Ministry of Tourism, in addition to the performance and the other things, on 2.1, page 13, when you say support upstream work to promote market growth in the tourism sector, to list those institutions, and also allocate what they think they would put, to avoid the scenario whereby money is put in a ministry and it's not delivered to those entities, for proper harmonization on this. I totally, Madam Chair, request the Minister talk about 2.2. When we
what is the 2.2, please?
page 13 of 19, strengthening the capacity of Conversion Events Bureau in Uganda Tourism Board to pattern the Uganda session of conference incentive industry to implement mutual beneficial activities that are all jointly be developed by the market strategy. We give over 40% money given to UTB goes for market destinations. And I would be very happy to support this when there's also a figure, especially for this, to avoid the situation whereby every entity, Uganda Export Promotion Board, talks about marketing tourism. Who are all these entities? And they give the same figures. So we don't need to get some clarity. Which entity exactly? So that as we also approve this loan, we compare with the amount of money that we have that side. I would be very happy if the Minister also divided the $43 million on these three sectors, so that we know how it is going to be allocated, and we move. I personally support the loan, not as it is, but basing on the details, that will be given as far as breakdown of that money is concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Chair, thank you very much. Three brief areas. One, that enterprises in Uganda are beginning to be competitive with the interventions we have had. I think this is commendable. But I want to agree with my colleagues that we need to do due diligence on this request. And also to mention to Ministry of Lands that the current process of land registration is very tedious. And indeed, I want to state that it is not only tedious to the local people, but even to people of our caliber. I have taken more than a year trying to get some land titles, and it has not yet been possible. So it almost knows no boundaries. So I think this process needs to be reviewed. And how you plan to address issues raised on land registrations and other matters is what you need to tell us to appreciate. But otherwise, my honest opinion is that your ministry is probably the least attended to, and we need to give in a lot of support to make you get up and be probably more vibrant than you are now, and then people will begin to appreciate. But tell us how you intend to address the concerns raised by honorable members. I have also learned that we have begun registering increase in exports of non-traditional crops. And I think this is as a result of a vibrant SMEs. And I just want to know which are these non-traditional crops that we have promoted, and if possible, you could also tell us how much we have earned during the period from the non-traditional crops, because this is one area within which we can actually promote export and be able to earn foreign exchange. So it's an area that is very fertile for support, but it would benefit this committee if you could tell us the extent to which we are progressing. Now, on tourism, Madam Chair, the economic potential of tourism almost world over is indisputable. And Chair, one unfortunate thing is that in Uganda, the actual value of tourism cannot be accurately determined. I don't know whether I'm right, but the Honorable Minister is here. What is the value of tourism in this country? And yet the potential of tourism can actually...
Are you asking about annual earnings or the assets?
The assets. Because if we could know the value of our assets and how much it can benefit us economically, then we can invest profitably into tourism sector in a way that it can help us change this economy. But Madam Chair, I want to... Yes, Chair.
According to the release by His Excellency the President, in the real economy, tourism is not ranked among the top. Tourism and leisure come at the bottom of the line. So whereas it has that capacity to earn, it's not the most important.
Madam Chair, I think that is a bit unfortunate. But the statement I want to make is that in the post-COVID-19, I think every country in the world will be struggling to promote competitiveness of the tourism sector. So I wanted to know from the Honorable Minister whether the $43 million we are talking about here is adequate to make tourism in Uganda competitive. Every country will want to make it more attractive, will want to have a marketing plan. You want to know what type of visitors are likely to visit Uganda. You want to undertake a survey. You want to know where do they want to go. What are the nature of accommodation that they are coming to have. So you want to undertake a comprehensive survey, and you want to market yourself as the best tourist destination in the world. So now, if Ministry of Finance was here, the minister, I wanted to know whether he could probably have a different opinion in repackaging our request to support the tourism sector. It's unfortunate to note that it's at the bottom of the preference, but I think in the real economy. But I think we can actually advocate to bring it up and empower it more using this kind of, if we can repackage this kind of borrowing, we could strengthen the tourism sector and have it a sector that can transform our economic base in this country. Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Lawrence Otenka.
Thank you, Chair. The communication of the President to the Minister of Finance, where he says that this loan request is vague in some aspects. He says he all the same supports it because it at least helps complete the training center, training school at Jinja. When I look at the achievements of SEDEP Phase 1, even on that one, I don't see the gaps that are to be completed. Actually, when you look at the activities, there is nothing like completion of the 3-star training hotel for the Uganda Hotel and Tourism Institute at Jinja. There are no gaps. I don't know whether we presume it was complete, and if it were complete, even what the President has now written here becomes redundant. We need to justify the components, the interventions in the tourism sector. What is the money actually going to do? Because the President's view was it would complete. I'm saying these things so that you help us in trying to approve this loan. And if and with regard to component 1, I think the President was clear he wasn't supporting it. Maybe that's part of what he calls vague. That is land administration. And the colleagues have pointed to repeated borrowing for land administration. I think for a long period of time, I think we need land to help us as we consider this loan request, to tell us what has been achieved at every stage. Whenever we borrowed for improvement in land administration and management, what we achieved. Honorable Mijaguma talked about a loan approved under 7th Parliament. Subsequent ones, SEDEP Phase 1. We would want to know what SEDEP Phase 1 achieved, what were the outcomes, and what are the anticipated improvements, the new outcomes we are likely to achieve under SEDEP Phase 2, but noting very seriously, and I think we need to get that answer from lands, that the President did not approve that component as well. It is not us, but also the President in his letter. I don't know whether he meant we should just approve because it will help complete the tourism training school. But even regarding completing the tourism training school, you don't show us, because you point it out as achievement number 1, that there was construction of a 3-star training hotel for Uganda Hotel and Tourism Institute at Jinja. You don't tell us that it was incomplete. But the President says it will help complete. So we want to be very clear what exactly we are borrowing for. And we are likely to face some of these questions as we consider this report. And I think as part of the leadership of the committee, I need clarity on those 2 issues. It is like the President's letter does not really leave us in a very comfortable position that he has approved. He says, although vague in some aspects, and doesn't talk about land administration. And he only supports the tourism center where information is not adequate, telling us which gaps are going to be filled, what outcomes we are going to add on, to the phase one, set the phase one outcomes, so that we actually show the need of borrowing this money. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I would now like to invite the Minister, starting with the Minister of Tourism, to respond. You are free to get in the technical feedback.
Madam Chair, are you going to, can I request that you allow the Dr. Ngategize to clear the way as far as financial matters are concerned before I come in?
Okay.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Honorable Minister, Chairman. Let me mention about 4 or 5 things for clarity. President's letter, as you realize, there were several loans that were being requested, and specifically in the letter by the Honorable Minister Matia Kasaija, he was basically saying, I'm requesting for additional financing to scale up and complete the sentences we have been saying. So part of the vagueness is around there because it was additional financing, and I hope you appreciate that. Number 2, the exchange rates, SDR, dollar fluctuates. I have been before in a committee of parliament where when we borrowed the 100 million, the ending project, when we came to the parliamentary committee, we were talking of 90 million. And I actually got, and I had to apologize to my minister that finance, within even finance, that maybe we had eaten the money. So these fluctuate. So where you see 66.1 being the same as 71.6, this is part of the SDR and DORA changes. If you want us to give evidence, you know, we can provide and show dates on which exchange rate we are using.
I think it suffices to say that the SDR is a weighted average of a basket of currencies. It's not just one currency.
Thank you very much, Chair. Number 3, I think one of the fundamental issues is the COVID and pre-COVID issue. If I just mention, because the ministers are going to elaborate, if we are saying that in lands there is chaos, this is really the reason we need to intervene in lands. And one of the things we have said is, let's have decentralized functional offices physically there, but also computerized, interlinked, so that what you are getting in Entebbe, you can get it in your constituency or wherever the 22 are. I really want to appeal to you, honorable members, the reason there is chaos, it's the same, because there is chaos, is the reason we need to intervene. You can guide us on what we are not doing well. So one is to have these physical offices decentralized to the regions and to the people. Number 2 is to computerize so that you don't meet somebody. I'll give you an example. Wakiso has been mentioned as a problem area. It has the largest land titles in the country or in the region. That's why the decision has been made. Let's have 2 offices, for Busiro and for Chadondo. And if you go to the new office that has been built, the way it is designed is to make sure that you don't just come and meet everybody. You can enter, they look at your documents, if they are right, they go back office. The way.
Madam Chair. Yes, please. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Dr. Peter is trying to convince us that we should reverse our thoughts and give this money so that they can improve further. Can he justify the source of this information that there is a reduction in number of days from 52 to 20 days in the acquisition of land titles? So that we can then be able to say, okay, if this has been the reason why this has been easier, then we can make it much easier by giving you the money. Otherwise, one will think that this was just something to hoodwink us.
Yes, Honorable Makuya.
Yeah, Madam Chair, this year in January, I paid the stamp duty, everything, just transport tax. Up to now, they have not anybody. They have not transferred. I think those are the days they are trying to say they have reduced.
Those are 120 days. Or 150 days.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I'm talking aware that my ministers come in. I wanted to keep to high level things that I think from the finance side are useful. I also have land titles being processed, but number three, I think I wanted to touch on the issue of URSB. Honorable Guma passionately said it's not the loan that helped URSB. Yes, it's leadership, and in the process of implementation, as money was being collected, both the World Bank money went to URSB and government money went to URSB. We can show over time how URSB financing has progressed. Secondly, when we talk about this Uganda Business Facilitation Center building, where URSB and UIA and capital markets will be, that's also part of the contributions to this. So we can show this if in the process of your work you need that. And that answers the other point, performance documents. Some are already with the clerk. We can provide additional in terms of performance of previous documents. Additional individual components, where has the 43 gone and where will the 43 go, 50? That is available, so we can also critique how the resources by component are being done. Chair, in the interest of time, and since the senior ministers, the beneficiary sectors are here, I beg to stop there. Thank you.
Yeah, but Chair, I thought you would comment on the actual relevance of the information you're providing now. Actually, according to the letter by the Minister of Finance to the President, and presumably that is after the two ministries had submitted the proposal, this went out to the President on the 3rd of January. So are we really, naturally it's a procedural issue, are we really discussing something relevant in the time, apart from the land current?
Honorable Chairperson, you know, the COVID era is still moving on. The other day I saw a list of when airlines are starting. I think starting later this month and July and what have you. We haven't, at least from records, lost anybody. Possibly in the next 2 months.
From the UN report here, we have lost 13.
There
is a UN report.
I serve government and I follow government records. So, Honorable Chairperson, in the next few weeks or even months, this dynamics of COVID is likely to keep evolving. But the infrastructure we're talking about, finishing the Ginger School, and for those who have talked about it, and even working with international bodies to make sure that the training there, the curriculum and the courses and what have you are competitive, is a process with or without COVID you are going to have. The tourism products is something both domestic tourism and international, those who will come, that we will need to have. I think the Honourable Minister will come in, and I think I'd rather really hear it. I wouldn't want to.
The member's concern, which is also my concern, are the base figures. You are talking of the pre-COVID levels. We are saying instead of, for proper planning, instead of starting at the pre-COVID figures, why don't we start from where we are? Otherwise, we are going to make wrong assumptions. Otherwise, we are going to end up with wrong plans.
Madam Chair.
Just replacing.
Madam Chair.
It's just replacing. Yes, Honourable Martin.
On that same point, and this is just to help you plan a little better, Honourable Tina. For example, Disneyland in America is opening up again to its tourists. But because of the COVID era, there's social distancing. Because of social distancing, revenue is being affected. The amount of area required to keep the same business has been affected. These realities need to be considered in your planning. We're just helping you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And Madam Chair, just to add that personally, I'm supporting the tourism competitiveness development. But I'm not sure whether you understand where I'm coming from. What I'm saying is that with the COVID, with the pressures that we are now having, it may not be the same priorities that we are having here, which will support tourism competitiveness. That's why I'm emphasizing that you need to go back and review, do the analysis, and then you come back with a much better informed proposal rooted in evidence.
Madam Chair.
Okay,
I think there's an issue that I'd also raised. We also supported the loan. But the point is, if they submitted the other documents, we also know the reality. They submit the details of what has been done, what they intend to use the money for. We shall sit and look at it and compare notes with them.
Okay.
So let them submit and we continue.
Okay, Honorable Mutume, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. As you know, I'm here with the Permanent Secretary and the Director for Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities. So I'll be asking them to clarify one or two issues. When this request is finally approved, this committee will have carried out a historic decision for the sector of tourism. Madam Chairperson, it will be historic because we've been really looking forward for these particular funds to move on as a ministry for a very, very long time. So when this committee finally recommends and finally approves this money, it will be a historic achievement for your committee, Madam Chairperson. Number two, COVID or no COVID, this money actually is for infrastructure. We have to complete the Ginger 3-star hotel. So COVID or no COVID, Ginger Hotel must be completed because it's a training institute. I want really that one to be understood. So even if COVID was to creep on up to December, isn't it? Still Ginger 3-star hotel must be completed.
But it might dictate adjustments within the infrastructure. Yes, because with social distancing and whatever,
Do we know what will
the
happen
facilities are not going to offer exactly the same service.
Madam Chair, you see, we don't disagree with the Minister that Ginger Hotel must be completed. But reading from the documents we have, we don't see anything to do with it. So, whereas you have information, we don't have it.
Yeah, that's it. I think
Well, that information will
But
come.
Madam, in any case, it's not taking $25 million.
Point number two,
no, it's not to give us a detailed
I'm not here really to, you see, now I can't come here and say, reduce on 53.7 and add on to 43.1, isn't it? Then we shall have now a different controversy here and start moving. So I leave this to you. For me, I'm ready. I'm ready to receive 43.
Give us your requirements.
Yes.
Of course, the minister wants money from this approval from us. And I'm very sure he also knows that when he submits figures, this committee can adjust those figures in consultation with the minister. I'm just requesting as a procedural issue that the minister, if the minister is not ready, we give him more time to go, come up with a document, our answered in writing, in consultation with the PS. We have figures on each item, so that in the next meeting, We shall discuss. If it is 3 star, we can say 5. Or we can say let them be 2. So, but without the figures and that statement that we may not be able, I think it's not more prepared. To proceed, you're right. If it's not to declare, then he submits in writing for a better discussion in the next meeting.
I think let's allow him to make his verbal response, which he will back up with the written explanation.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, and the PS will add on that matter. Well, I will not really go into but at least, if I may say something about the land office in Fort Portal, the regional land office. That office has facilitated issuance of titles in the area where I come from, Madam Chairperson. Really. But you've got to be vigilant. You've got to be vigilant. Some government officials are really they are not necessarily cadres, but they've got to be supervised. They've got to be supervised so that they can deliver. So that the supervision, not kit kidogo, but supervision. One of the honorable members was wondering that in Uganda we don't have an Utali college. Jinja will be. Jinja will be the Utali College of Uganda. Funds permitting. That if funds are made available, we shall complete that project, and Jinja will emerge as the Utali of Uganda, Madam Chair. I know that Honorable Tayewa, Honorable Katoto, Honorable the Member of Parliament for Kole, sorry, all of those members are like me. My constituency borders Kibale National Park. I also have a conflict between humans and wildlife conflict. 2 weeks ago, I was in Kitagwenda, and I had gone there to solve a problem between humans and wildlife conflict because of Queen Elizabeth National Park. It's a very, very serious matter. And I'm looking forward to an opportunity to come here, maybe with another request, isn't it? For a loan so that we can finance, a fence, isn't it? Between human beings and wildlife. This is very, very important.
Something cheaper, digging a trench. Why don't we do that?
They said that elephants are very, very intelligent. They are very, very intelligent animals, Madam Chair.
There is a proposal I have. This money which you send to communities around the parks, and those monies have become also another center of corruption, whereby leaders in the areas have started giving themselves small tenders. They say a goat is 400,000 when we know in the village it's 100,000. Why don't you first use that money instead of giving it communities? You first use it to protect communities. And then by building the fence and all that, and then when the communities are protected, okay, you start giving money because we shall appreciate. If you give me a goat, and that goat, at the end of the day, a leopard comes and eats it, a lion comes and eats it, I will have lost a goat, then they want to destroy my gardens. So you need to look into it deeply. Madam Chair, I think this is an issue we don't need to follow. If you meet us as MPs from such communities, we can agree with our leaders. We use that money to protect our communities first before we come in to buy things for the community. I thank you, Honourable Minister.
Okay.
Thank you, Honourable, but the PS will comment on that. Because now there is Uganda Wildlife
Authority Act 2019, which came into effect October last year. It is now that one which we are following. And even the regulations are ready, as the PS will be explaining, so that we follow and we work in a more organized and constructive manner. So therefore, even Tororo Rock, what program do we have for Tororo Rock? That one the PS will also explain. But the problem of wildlife and human conflict is extremely dire, and everything possible really will have to be done to cause that situation to improve. I agree that Dr. Ndategize
Can you please have an orderly meeting? Without music in the background.
What a friend we have in Jesus, yet we have a friend in a minister.
Honorable Damzungu was concerned about can you evaluate, can you value what is there? I think that was Honorable Kello. He was saying value what is there in tourism, isn't it? Well, that can be done, but at least we know that 2018 tourism generated $1.6 billion into the GDP. And our projection actually was that come 2025, we should have $3 billion. And if we have to make fresh studies, which can be made, we can be able to value what Uganda really holds for tourism, and that can be. But that's a very, very intensive project, isn't it, to do, because you have to. You see, tourism is about intangible and tangible heritage. Okay. So you will even have to value my language, isn't it? Because, yeah, even my language have to be valued. How much is Rutoro, Runyoro Rutoro equivalent to in terms of dollars, isn't it? Because that is already an intangible heritage. And so many other things, Kasumi tools and all that. So we shall try. We can do that. The PS will also explain on the matter of regulations. Now that they are ready, when do we intend to start following them? Because it is now very clear if animals invade and destroy crops, it is now clear how you can go about it and how you can be compensated. Finally, whether this money will complete Jinja Hotel, the answer is yes, of course, but subject to the PS also confirming that this money can complete Jinja Hotel. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Madam Kapsime, can you please back up your minister?
Thank you, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members. And through my minister, I just want to make a few clarifications. One is that, like the minister said, with or without COVID, the interventions that are being proposed by where, for example, we are going to develop a tourism circuit on Lake Victoria, connecting Uwek to Ngamba Island, to the botanical gardens, so that somebody can come to Entebbe, even if they don't come to the other parts of Uganda, they are able to do tourism there. So this will still be very important for us. Other areas of product development, for example, under Uganda Tourism Board, we are allocating $5 million for destination marketing,
for improving our branding. We have already hired a company to do branding, but this is the time now after COVID that we have to aggressively roll out the brand of the Pearl of Africa to be able to make ourselves a preferred destination. And one of the products that we are emphasizing in this project is MICE, which stands for Meetings, Incentives, Conventions, and Events. We think Uganda, even without this bureau that we are referring to, we have seen that we are a preferred destination when it comes to meetings and conferences. But we need to develop that product. We already have a business plan that was developed under CEDEP 1. We have a business plan and a strategy which we need to roll out and implement under this project. So what I wanted to emphasize is, first of all, that these are really timely interventions. They will still be very important for us even after COVID. We are also going to work on the Uganda Museum. This is another product that really, as a sector, we haven't promoted so much. Most people say they went to the museum 20 years ago and it still looks the same. We are going to modernize it. We are going to expand it. We are going to digitize, like what you see in other museums when you travel. So again, this is infrastructure development under this project. Those are some of the areas that were not completed or were not touched in the first phase of this project. So we are also going to enhance capacity. And one of the first components, which is taking about $1.6 million, is tourism information management system. Honorable members will agree that, for example, you are telling us to go back and come with baseline data. Of course, we may not have data for 2020, but in terms of data, we have been depending so much on the Bureau of Statistics. So you find, for example, that we only have data for 2018. We do not have data for 2019. So we want to develop a tourism information management system where we can get reliable, accurate, and timely data. For example, on tourist arrivals, on expenditure, and that's where we'll be able to do some surveys, for example, to inform decision-making so that government can decide where to invest. The private sector, people can know where to invest. When a tourist comes to Uganda, what are they most interested in? How much do they spend? For how many days do they stay? So that information management system is one of the components of the project. I think I have said enough about the project, maybe about the wildlife, human-wildlife conflict. I think the minister has explained, but I wanted to clarify that the project that Honorable Katoto was referring to, which the president rejected, it is still under consideration. Under that project, again, it's a World Bank project. That's where we had put money for electric fences, for trenches. Of course, we still use our money, especially under Uganda Wildlife Authority, and we're still planning and budgeting for that. But under this particular project, we have $2 million, which is going to support communities. I think that's what Honorable Taiwo was talking about. We have some money for community sub-projects, but particularly for communities around the protected areas, where we are going to strengthen their capacity to engage in tourist-related commercial activities, including product development and marketing of their products. Now, finally, the Honorable Member from Tororo talked about the Tororo Rock. We have products we have wanted to develop for a long time. And like I said, some of them date many years back. And this project is going to assist us to develop, for example, the source of the Nile. We have developed a 20-year master plan for the source of the Nile. But we want to see how to work with the private sector through triple Ps to develop some of the infrastructure that we have identified. But we also want to do a feasibility study for the cable car on Mount Rwenzori. That is something that has been on our planning documents for a long time. So there are several areas that we are looking into. We may not be able to do everything. So we may not do Tororo in this particular project, but it's probably a product that we can look at for future developments.
Yeah, but Madam PS, is there where you can bring forward the fencing of the game parks? Because this conflict between the animals and the people outweighs the benefits from tourism. Because the many people around are farmers. They have to grow their own food, and some of them are growing on commercial. So I think that is something which is rather urgent. We should not wait.
Madam Chair, supplement you.
Sorry.
I've had the case has really done a great job in answering our issues. I expect more details in writing, where we'll be able to give to that minute detail. But Madam Chair, on that $2 million we're talking about for communities. Madam Chair, every year they distribute goats. For neighbors. And in the end, these goats are eaten by the same animals. Okay? The same animals cross from the national park, because I neighbor Queen Elizabeth's park, I neighbor Kahingi Forest. So they cross over from the park, they come and feast on the goats, and the next year they add in more goats. So the animals are getting fatter, while the people are suffering. So that money, I don't think it's just the $2 million. It seems out of the money which they charge tourists in the whole country, there is a company that goes back to communities. Now, what is important? Is it my safety or that money we give for goods which ends up feeding those animals? So that's the money I was proposing, Madam PS, that you can go back as a ministry. This is not an answer I need to go away, but if it was just a proposal, you go, you look into it, it must be a huge sum, because you send a lot of money to my area. If you keep really putting it together, you can realize money for communities. And once they know that these 2 years, you are not going to get any money for communities, because we are going to do for year things. We shall be really happy, we shall mobilize communities. Finally, Madam Chair, she raised an issue on the $5 million. Madam Chair, we need to know, number one, local content. You have been emphasizing in this role the issues of local content. We want to know how have we addressed issues of local content. But number two, local tourism. I usually meet officials of government going abroad, showcasing everywhere. They put a store, the store is visited by 4 people, they have spent a lot of money. It shows all of, let me finish this. But as we know, because of COVID, it is no longer fashionable. Yes. Even carry your families abroad. What component are you giving to marketing local tourism out of that $5 million? I want to know if there is a local company involved, because you said you've hired a company. We want to know whether it's local or international. If it's international, whether it's working with a local company. But 2 of the $5 million for promoting tourism, Uganda's final destination, no what, how much has been put onto local tourism, which each one of us can do. I want to give an example, Madam Chair. I've seen Munyonyo now is advertising that it is giving local people 50%. Because outsiders are not coming. So now local hotels can only survive in this period. They will only survive on us who are local. So what are you doing to promote local tourism? The money we are always boarding planes going abroad to go and see what's not even there, we just see models. What can we do to ensure we promote our own local people to visit Uganda?
Yes, Honorable Sabatimba, I wanted to give a chance to the Minister of Grants.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to respond to the Honorable Minister and the Permanent Secretary. First and foremost, thank you very much for your submission, both of you. They're very good. I think I just wanted to clarify the following, Madam Chair. We support what you want to do. Of course, we need to build that infrastructure. The only reason some of us have been highlighting on this issue of pre and post-COVID, and I'm going to give you some practical examples. And in a nutshell, I'm saying maybe you're not asking for enough money. And that's why we're challenging you to think about these things. For example, when you look at hotels, the non-bedroom activities all over the world. I've been watching what Emirates is, how they're advertising themselves, how the Italians are advertising themselves, American hotels and so on and so forth, Singapore, all the guys that are opening up, trying to attract people to go back. One of the things in all of them, the dining room areas have been decreased in terms of the number of people they can serve. And so when you're putting together our new hotel to train our people, you've got to take that into consideration, that based on the volumes that you expect, is there going to be a need, for example, to increase your dining room areas? What is the new post-COVID etiquette? How do people behave, and so on and so forth? All these post-COVID things are going to cost you more money. We agree that you must build this infrastructure, put it in place, but you need to take into consideration the new realities that we have to deal with. For example, the trucks that we use to take the tourists out from the hotel to go see the elephants and the lions and so on and so forth. Because of social distancing, those trucks, those huge Land Cruisers where you used to pack 9 people, now we're going to take only 4. Have you taken that into consideration in your budget? The cable cars that you're bringing in, praise God for that. Maybe you're going to need a lot more than what you're planning for, again, because of social distancing. So it's those kind of realities that we are challenging you to make a part of your planning, so that you don't get this money and then be embarrassed to come back in a short time to recognize that, okay, it was relevant before the post-COVID stuff, but now that, for example, in all the new restaurants, so in Dubai and so on, where you have a dining room table here, you have a transparent sheet to give a sense of space, but separation amongst tables, all of that probably was never budgeted for because it was not expected. Things of this nature are what we're encouraging you to think about and make sure that your plannings are relevant to those new realities, those new requirements, which are actually going to cost you money. But if put in place properly, are going to take you forward the way that you want to. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
Honorable Chair, I just wanted to say that this is just one project, and we cannot use the project, of course, to solve all our problems. What the honorable members are talking about is very well appreciated. Last week, we launched standard operating procedures for hotels and restaurants, and we used Sheraton Hotel as the model. For example, the hotel now takes only 2 people in the lift at a time. For example, when a guest has used the room, they will not take in another guest until after 24 hours. So certainly that will mean higher costs to the sector. But I think those are their management issues. They are like Dr. Ngataji, this COVID thing is emerging, but we will have to address those issues as we go along. We also have money from government. For example, under the UTB, government has almost tripled the budget for marketing in the last 3 years. So destination or domestic marketing, domestic tourism is one area that we are really, really focusing on as a sector. And during this COVID, we've been having Zoom meetings every Friday with the tourism board and the public. And this has come out very prominently from the public that we need now to promote more of domestic tourism. Of course, the public has been raising the issue of affordability. People want to travel, but it's not affordable. The lodges are too expensive. And again, those are things we need to discuss with the private sector. Can we have special packages for Ugandans so that, if you can have, instead of having empty hotels, you can cut down your prices. Those are things we are discussing with the hotel owners. But those are not issues that we may be able to address in this project. And like I said earlier, we really tried to emphasize infrastructure because many times we borrow money and it's used into, soft things, and at the end of the day, you can't really see what you did with the project. So that's why we said in this project, we should really emphasize infrastructure. Now, on the sharing, the revenue sharing, UA shares 20% of the revenue from gate collections, and this is enshrined in the Wildlife Act. It's 20% given to the communities neighboring the protected areas. Now, what has been happening is that there are guidelines that UA develops and discusses with the communities. Maybe these are things we need to go back and discuss with the communities because the communities have been developing projects, and then UA looks at these projects. So a community may say, we want to rear goats. Another one says, we want to do beehives. And then when these are developed and then they're approved, the money is given to the district. And then it is it goes down to the community. But if the communities, for example, said we want to focus more on human-wildlife conflict, then probably, otherwise it would be like we are dictating
No, but I
to the
think
community.
on that they need to be guided.
I think so.
They
So it's
want
some-
that money for their own use, but at the same time come back to government to provide the protection. But I think government can do it from the beginning. Yeah. You do it from the beginning. You said this year the money we've been giving you is we are putting into protecting your gardens. Yeah, I think that one needs to be guided.
Chair, that
Yes,
money
sir.
is being abused seriously.
Yes.
You request you invest yourself. You find a goat at 400,000. It's a few readers. When you talk of communities, Madam Pierce, it's just a few readers. You just talk the council, Manero history, then you cover to the district, and you hear they distributed the money. I request you invest yourself.
We shall look at these guidelines again. But finally, Honorable Chair, I wanted
But
to say
for
that.
us, that is going to be a strong recommendation.
Yes.
We need to resolve the conflict between the game parks and the humans. Otherwise, we shall not reap maximum benefits from wildlife.
Honorable Chair, we developed a cabinet paper because this matter is really almost every week in Parliament. You know, there is a case of human-wildlife conflict. The President directed us to come up with a cabinet paper of what we would need, and we developed a cabinet paper where we showed how much we have as OA and how much we need extra. Unfortunately, Minister of Finance was not able to find this money. Even then, we went ahead and presented the cabinet paper. So my minister has been saying we can go and meet finance again and see, because we needed only about 27 billion to be able to address this.
From internally.
Yes.
You can find that money from the money already without going out to borrow or getting extra budget.
Yeah, this was supposed to come from government. Of course, now UWA is going to be affected by the COVID, so because it depends so much on tourism. So the revenue collection may be affected, but that is what I wanted to clarify on the chair.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Introduce yourself, please.
Madam Chair.
And where you were delayed.
Madam Chair, I woke up this morning and it was raining. And we decided that we would be late to work.
You are
And the wife.
Madam Chair, my name is Herbert Manariko, MP Sorot Municipality. My question is to the tourism ministry guests. Honorable Minister and PS, we all know that under these circumstances of the new normal, especially after the COVID, there will be one thing that will stay. That like the common flu, COVID is likely to be a challenge that is perpetuated by the extreme cold weather that happens over the other side in Western world and then Europe and America. This means that as the cold times, winter like setting again that side from October onwards, most of those friends will much more even want to get away from there to the slightly better weather here. I have seen our neighbors across do some of the things that I believe can also market us. Why don't we get into innovations where most of the people here, if I look at them, are people that follow sports and football. Rwanda has gotten to a point where every time, like I don't like watching Arsenal very much, but every time when I force myself to watch Arsenal, they are telling me, visit Rwanda. Over time, it has reached a point where it appears to even those that would ordinarily want to forget about the football, in their mind they will leave the screen thinking of Rwanda. Sports, in terms of promoting appeal, are inseparable. Is it possible that some of these innovations that will cause Uganda to be a feature in almost every part of the world at once? Yes, I think that we could even do better.
Are these some of the things you're thinking of? Is it too expensive? I mean, it is okay to promote domestic tourism, but how else do we make even those who only know Uganda because of the late Idi Amin Dada also keep seeing us and then try to encourage themselves to come here? That's just what I wanted to say. How are you trying to use some of the most appealing kind of activities today, like sports and whatever, to make Uganda a permanent feature in people's mind and people's eyes? I thank you.
I thank you very much. Honorable,
we have really taken note of the all members' contribution, and we shall go back to the ministry and think hard and see what can be done, so that every sector, every intangible and tangible aspect in Uganda can contribute to tourism. And we shall really promote domestic tourism, which has been glaringly lacking. The time has now come, and we have gotten now enough experience that you cannot rely, isn't it, on the foreign tourist.
Yeah,
it is the Ugandan tourist. Yes, COVID is a wake-up. And because of COVID, the way Uganda has handled COVID, Uganda now is the safest destination for tourists.
Sure.
As I talk now. And we're only waiting for that airport to open. And we shall really be flooded with tourists. They're just waiting. Let that airport open and you'll see what will happen here. So finally, as I started, if these funds are approved by this committee, it will be a historic achievement. I thank you, Madam Chairperson. Thank you.
Do you have something to add?
Just one little thing I wanted to add. I forgot to respond about the branding. The company that we hired to do branding, this is now not in this project, but under Uganda Tourism Board. It's a Ugandan company. It has been doing some work for MTN and a few other companies, so that one is already ongoing. But this
I
project...
think we met them last week. When we met them.
I'm talking about the company. It's a Uganda, it's a private company.
We're talking about local content.
But local content, yes, that is a must. It is now the law. We promote local content. When we are procuring, we give, we must do Google. So unless something is not, of course we do competitive bidding depending on the threshold, but we give the local companies take a certain percentage priority.
Okay, thank you. Princess, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I just pray that we will manage because I tell you, you know, when you are washing.
You have got an admirer in front of you. A Republican admiring you. In the name of Cassiano
Honourable Chair, they say when you are washing a clothes which is very dirty, it takes you longer to understand that it's getting cleaner. Even after the first second wash, the water almost looks the same. So, with you, Honourable Chair, your experience and honourable colleagues, and my senior colleague here, who was in lands, was as a minister, when you ask about the history of land in Uganda, it is coming from a terrible state. So, what we are trying to do is to put things better. But because of the death of the cloth, it is taking longer people to realize that actually the attire is getting cleaner. But it is getting cleaner, colleagues. And we hope that we add on into soap and water, and it will get clean and cleaner. So, with this program, Honourable Chair and colleagues, it's just because we have been here for long and we appreciate your time given to these two important sectors. But if, like what honourable colleagues have requested, if more data, more information had been availed on the performance of the first phase, I think it would limit so many questions. Because, according to the World Bank report, this program under lands performed the best than tourism.
Better than tourism?
Yes, so much better. Yes, my senior colleagues are here, even PS. Yes, so I think my technical officers, I have here the coordinator of this program. We had Mr. Putti, the one who started with that program, he retired, and Dr. Mteny, all of them. If they can provide this information, colleagues, you will wonder. We performed so much better, higher, not even more than double in relation to tourism. And the World Bank gave appreciation when we hosted the International Land Conference, which we colleagues are invited you to attend, and many of you didn't come, but many of our colleagues still came. And those were quite so many countries. How many, Kagoro? About 37 countries gathered. And when they were talking about Uganda, given our land history, they were wondering how could Uganda adopt this system, most of the land information system, so faster that we are putting things right than even countries which got this loan before. And that is on record. And that's why they said they do not have hesitation whatsoever to give us another phase. Another important thing, Honorable Chair and colleagues, which World Bank, and I request that you avail those minutes to honorable members, Kagolo, when we go back, they said we paid the loan before its expiry period. Am I right? I remember well? Before. And it has not happened in these other countries. And Doctor, I thought when you were giving your submission, don't you remember that? We paid before.
No, just clarification. How is it that you paid before when we are struggling with other loans which are in arrears? Why wasn't that money used?
No, it wasn't like in terms of that we have taken back and wholesome money, but the targeted goals were achieved and went beyond score before the period which they estimated. And all that information, now, Chair, is available, and I will personally bring it to you. So that's why you are seeing that from a correction of $7.7 million US, we went to 37. And this is a reality. And this information is available in URA. Because the levels of land registration went up. And yet this is a program which was just starting. So they even predicted and said, what if everything is stable? Like my brother here, Honorable Kaseyano, is saying, that people are on the job, they are working from morning to evening, from Monday to Friday. Not only Tuesdays, yes. Yes, efficiently and effectively executing their jobs. How much tax levy will this ministry correct? Because if we can be at 37, and yet we have had challenges in the operations. It is true that some of our offices have been operating thrice a week. But also what I want Honorable Chair and members to note is that this system, as much as it was started on some time back, but most of these MZOs have just been completed, like the one you're talking about, the one in Ruwe. It is even...
Where the cadastral office is the factory for manufacturing titles.
Yes, it is hardly 2 months. It is hardly 2 months. What was there was the old-fashioned land registration where you they look at everything manually. But Luero has been in the last...
Let me tell you the experience I have.
Yes.
My ancestral land where my father was buried. Somebody went and subdivided it, issued the titles, and they were being sold off.
Wow.
Yes, in Luero.
I wish you...
I had to put up a security file to be recomposed.
Sure.
But it had been cut into several pieces and sold. I put up a street and since that's how I got it back, otherwise my father's breakthrough and my ancestors would be gone. So if you have improved from that extreme,
Honorable Chair, what I can't dispute, and colleagues, like my older brother Kashano is saying, is the corruption.
There's the issue of you having registered quite some success in revenue collection as a result of land registration. One of the problems which we face, especially from the northern part of this country, where we have all along had a customer land title system, is that presently when people apply for registration of their land, even a customer land is given a lease. From whom do I lease my customer land?
A lease by who?
This is the question which is being asked. My own customer land, my ancestors, great ancestors have been buried there. And you are telling me to lease. From whom do I lease it?
They are giving freehold now.
And all this is done in names of, I think, revenue realization. And that's one of the reasons why people now, they're not afraid. Because if it is our ancestral land, customer land, instead of giving us a freehold, like is the case here in Buganda, with the Milo and the rest of it, where you know you own this land and it is perpetuated. But here is a situation where people are now fearing that after 49 years, what happens? Where will my children, great-grandchildren, where will they go? So that is something, Madam Minister, that we should really critically address, especially relating to northern Uganda. Because we have never had any other land form tenure system other than customer. We're not like my Madam Chair here from Uganda, where they have got their Milo, then they have got this and that. But for us, we don't even move from place to place. This business of buying land is a new culture for us. We know we were born here, our founding fathers were here, and we shall die here. So, this idea of giving lease to me on my customer land, which is a real thorn in our necks up there in the north, you interest yourself as a ministry in that problem. Because it's a real issue, and the people are really up in arms about the challenges and the difficulties they are getting along that line. Thank you.
Honorable Chair, I would like to check that because as a ministry, the little money that we have had gotten to use on customary titles after His Excellency the President directed us to issue certificates of customary titles. Because as you know, in our constitution, we have the freehold titles, we have the milehold, we have the leasehold, and the customary. But the government was not issuing out customary certificates of titles, just because this customary land, if you look at it properly, it is like more public land, even though when people have been there. Yes. No, please, I want you to understand this. So in the past, government was like, if we give out all the certificates of titles, people are occupying customary land.
Madam Chair,
Will they
Madam Chair, the minister is
let me explain.
No, you are rubbing us people from northern Uganda the wrong way.
No, let me explain.
I also know it also applies to you in Busoga because I've stayed all my life in Busoga.
If you listen what I'm explaining, you will see. You will see that I'm not contradicting with you, Honorable Cassiano. So His Excellency directed the ministry to start issuing customary certificates of titles. Because once someone talks about customary, like you're telling me, Honorable Chair, it means this land belonged to your grands, what, that name alone. And he directed us to issue those titles. In those names, they are titles, but they are customary. And those customary certificates of titles we have issued, Honorable Cassiano, we have not given a lease. They are titles. However, some people, after maybe being misled, they started coming to the ministry saying, they are telling us that we get freehold. And my technical people here, they will have something to say. They said, fine, if you want to get a freehold converted from customary, they have been doing so. But the issue is, when you get a freehold, you are killing the name, which the president told us we should not what? Kill. Customary, meaning that someone holding that title didn't come just what? Yesterday. That name alone, it explains the history of that person. But Honorable Kasian and members, even customary titles, certificates of titles, if they are given to you, you as the owner, you can lease them out, just like the mile hold to somebody, just like the freehold. So the sensitization we want to embark on as a ministry is people to appreciate this name, because it is even talked about in our constitution, and I think my senior colleague who was there before agrees with me. So if you look at the phase 2, that's why members were saying that you, my technical people, and the doctor, bring out the information in this phase 2 program. It has issues of titles, it has sensitization, it has staffing of the MZOs, because there is no way honorary members would they discuss about the staffing in 2 facilities which are not existing. Now that the facilities are there, we need to improve on administration, we need to staff them, and we have already, my permanent secretary has already discussed with Minister of Public Service, and we shall be coming to you for support to have fully staffed, MZOs which can be function fully. And with your supervision together with us at the center, I'm sure this land office can improve. We had a problem in Fort Potro, my senior colleagues here, when we had just put that, installed that LIS. With all the information in place and facilitation, our staff were not working. They go there, they come back to Kampala. One of our staff was from Mbarara. She was ever in Mbarara. They came and told us that this girl cannot work. And yes, and I'm sure, given that he was in the ministry and he knows challenges, together with the leaders there, Chairman 5, we have been able to improve on. But what I want you, honorable colleagues and honorable chair, to appreciate is that there is no way you can improve on service delivery of the ministry when you don't even have facilities in place. If you talk of Honorable Kasiano saying coming back to the center, you can't, you're my elder brother. The time people would spend, like for him who was there, I was discussing with a lot of issues with him, not today, but sometime, to get experience, to get a title. Everybody coming from wherever would come there, and the corruption was too much, because he submitted this. The only thing,
the place was surrounded by land agents.
Yes. Exactly. All of this one. It was a depot of blockers. Yes. I'm told the blockers were even more richer than the people who own land themselves. So, honorable colleagues. Oh, and I appreciate the component of this on which has been built on this program of FIFO, first in, first out, and that is electronic. You can't change, even when somebody comes and say, but this title, the surveyor submitted this and you entered it in the system on this date. What made it stop? Because if we strengthen the areas of supervision, that will be clearly seen that our staff cannot hide. You cannot. Because even there is some parts which they have made, it's only read memory. If you attempt to write there when you're not supposed to write there, the system will report, and then when they audit it, they will see what were you trying to change. So this is technology that you can't tamper with. That's why all of the other countries have adopted the same. So I think even the reduction, like Doctor talked about our office in Wakiso, many of you colleagues who went to Wakiso, I think you've been seeing. Wakiso now, after chasing them from the center, Wakiso, because it's connected to Kampala, had become now the depot of blockers. All sorts of people. Let me help you. Now the new EMS of, not Shadow, the other one was Zero. It's like a bank. You come, submit your papers, your surveyor has done the what? They enter the system, they give you evidence that they have done what? Entered. And we have even done the messaging on your phone, like how you pay for what and all what. You can even show that when I submitted, I received this what? Message. So that this staff of ours cannot pretend about it, that no, he just came yesterday, like how they have been deceiving with these manual files. So you submit and go. We have put no waiting room. We have the waiting room, okay, it's like the bank, but we have not created a space like this old Chadon, because it was a building of local government, I think, Wakiso districts. Everything, they are there waiting for people to pay. So for me, colleagues, as we try to improve the land management system in Uganda, these facilities are very important, because there is no way you can do it however much you wanted to eliminate corruption. But these are facilitators that will help us to reach what? Another level. Colleagues, I want to mention this. I will not make a long submission. Of recent, Karamoja had developed land disputes, clans and what? We have registered them into clans. And these certificates of titles want them to be customary, but issued on recommendation of the clans and what? And sub-clans. When we went to the northern part of Uganda, we have shared with some leaders. We have not finalized, but some leaders were saying they also want us to do the same, clans and sub-clans. However, people were saying they want their own individual. You get it? Yes. Yes. Which our traditional leaders there are still what? Are still rejecting, because they want to still have some control that I'm going to leave. So this one will tell us with the colleagues, we are going to hold that leadership. But all that is in phase 2, issuing this, because it's a presidential directive that people should get some, certificates of ownership. You cannot continue to be there like in Busoga, like he said. We don't have, but we are customary owners, but without any what? Without any document. And it's only government that can issue that certificate of what? Of title. So I think, I will not say much, but because land has a law, I agree with you, because the issues you've raised, our colleagues in Parliament and others will want to know what have you done so far and what is in the second what? In the second phase. But I want to share this information with you. When we were having the International Land Conference, Honorable Migiriko almost shed tears, because he was remembering the challenges he went through with this first law. No one supported him. Even the president mentioned it when he was there. He was trying to explain, but because of the data, as I told you, the cloth which has been there, no one was appreciating any point. And what made him almost shed tears of joy, because all those people used to meet from World Bank came, and he was remembering the harassment, abuse. He's here. He said, if you ask him, and he was remembering what he went through. So he said, when I see a names of Ginger, at least where I come from, standing, well built, with the technology installed, I know we shall fight the rest. We shall fight the corruption. We shall fight the what? But at least my dream came true. So we are inheriting something that was stated by some of our colleagues who have been in the ministry before, and even us, we are here to support once for the good cause. And that's why I request that you colleagues support us, even as we may not be there tomorrow. But whether we like it or not, the land information system, the land storage, and what must be improved in Uganda. Because lastly, you know that in our ministry, we have land administration, we have land registration, we have Department of Survey and Mapping, and land management. But colleagues, when the land has been badly surveyed, when it has not been properly registered, you cannot administer on it well, even to manage it. You need to answer the question, on whose behalf am I managing? On whose behalf am I administering? If the land has been registered in Honorable Sematimba's names, I know it is for Sematimba. Yes, the grabbers can be there. But if they come and tampered with it, my records must show me what? Clearly. But right now we have 75%, Honorable Chair, land in Uganda is not registered. Even a person who came yesterday says that I've been here. And the LCs are becoming a problem. Someone comes on someone's customary land, and even although they consent that yes, because they have given it what? Kidogo. So our vision, the vision 2040 for Uganda, our assignment as Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development is that to have all lands in Uganda registered, whether it is for institutions, whether it is for individuals, and registered for one person, not overlapping what? Titles. Already we shall be sharing with Parliament, because we have now thousands of titles which are overlapping what? the other, which this technology detected, which was not there before. Now everyone comes to the ministry, I'm the owner. So we want also to share with Parliament, how do we go about it? Because when we try to cancel the top, the other one goes to court, the other one goes to court. Now all the 8 people are what? In court. But what we don't want to continue keeping is these overlapping titles in a system which has been cleaned technologically, and we continue. But the president said, you can share with Parliament because this can be a legislative matter. Then they give you a roadmap on how to deal with these titles, so that all of us are involved.
I was referring to the paper with the new vision for today.
Yes.
Bugoma Forest Reserve.
Yes.
Was there another new system? So what happened?
I had not answered.
Okay. You are talking about the institutional land. That is our